Hello, my name is Ben. I am your host for this week's episode of the Too Vague podcast. We've got a clip show for you, our second clip show. We just hit our 60 episode milestone, a collection of never before heard material that was either cut from the show or it's warm-up material. Before we talk about that, I'm going to talk about some recent developments and some things that I've been doing in preparation for maybe a new segment involving Norah. So recently I have been on a Steam binge. I think we talked about this on the last episode about the Humble Bundles. That kind of got me started taking a look at what the deals were. And then one thing led to another. Steam has a sale like every day on something. I only have a Mac as my primary computer, so the games themselves are kind of limited. I have been toying with the idea of maybe getting a Steam Deck at some point instead of investing some serious money in a PS5 when they become available, but I don't know. On their website, they've got some that are optimized for the Steam Deck, some that don't work for the Steam Deck, some that have some things that work, but they don't have this seal of approval yet to be played. It does look pretty cool. A couple of the concerns is it gets really hot and it's really loud. In my old age, the screen size is a little bit of a concern for me. In looking into possibly getting a Steam Deck, I was looking through their catalog and I noticed that they have a lot of games for the Mac on sale. So I decided to pick up a couple of them. Even though I have it on PlayStation 4, I picked up Hades on the Mac. So now I go to the coffee shop and play Hades for a little bit while I should be editing the show for you fine folks. And that's where I am playing Bugsnax. I'm playing that on the Mac. There's only one thing that I don't necessarily enjoy about Mac versions. Recently, they made a jump to 64-bit, and a lot of these games that were playable on the Mac are not playable on the more recent versions of the OS. So that's one thing I got to be concerned with if I buy a game, is to make sure that since I don't dual boot, I do have a really old Mac. Maybe I'll see if there's some of the games that I can play. But generally, it's for the laptop. As you know, and as my one audience member, Norah, knows, I've been trying to get Norah into video games. Started with some point-and-click adventures. Just bought her a copy of Donut Country, which we will be talking about on the next episode. In talking to her just before I started recording this show, she's really enjoying it. We did a test run today of her watching me play Hades and doing some commentary. I still have some bugs to work out, I think, as far as the way I'm going to record that. If anyone out there is listening and has any suggestions on how to record something separately on two different sources, how they do that. I mean, I thought about streaming, but we want to keep it as no frills as possible, as very low tech as possible for Norah. But the first test seemed to go pretty well. I'm going to get some ideas and we'll see what we can cook up for maybe doing the after 2 hours game reviews that I was going to do before I finalized the show format. Wow, it's been almost a year and a half. Holy cow. That's a little bit of what I've been up to. So let's get into it. The first clip you're going to hear is a chat that Cheyenne and I had with Norah before starting or recording on Hype. Norah, we called her up. She couldn't locate her notes, but the conversation kind of led to a joke back in probably February. Well, basically, Neil Young had decided that he was going, based on some disinformation and something that he perceived as dangerous information about COVID, decided he was going to remove his entire catalog from Spotify. And recently, Spotify said that they got Neil Young back, but that's not 100% true. They do have any of the selections in his library that have been used by movies, so it's not a complete catalog of his work. But some Neil Young songs are on Spotify now, due to probably what I would consider a loophole. I mean, So we talk about this whole thing that happened, and it ends up being a generational joke that Norah tells Hilarity ensues. Enjoy.
How's that?
Oh, you're at a start. What are you going to get? Do you know?
No, I already have green tea lemonade.
Oh,
and a
nice.
Lemon loaf. Yeah,
That's so good. I love that stuff.
yeah. So
So
I just had a test, stick in the nose test.
stick
so I
in the
thought I
nose
needed-
test?
Yeah.
Oh,
you know,
yeah, the little
COVID
COVID test. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So I thought I deserved a lemon loaf.
Well, there you go. Get a little reward for going through that.
Yeah, exactly.
So
what's up, you guys?
We called you because Cheyenne mentioned we're going to do the show on hype. She said that we haven't done a question from my aunt in a while, is what she said.
Truth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you have a question from my aunt?
I'm away from my notes.
Okay.
There were some things I was curious about, but
We could always do it for our next episode, Ben, so that...
We could call you back after we're done recording this episode, maybe. We're doing hype, and then Cheyenne's going to be running the show for character. So character. She's got a lot of interesting stuff.
I like character.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
Let me think.
Okay.
Because there was one or two things.
That's okay. We kind of sprung it on you, so...
Yeah.
Which is what I do. I'm one of those people, like my mom will call and you're with me. I'll say, here, talk to my mom. And then I'll just hand the phone off to.
Yeah.
I'm one of those annoying people. So just hope that, Cheyenne, that at any point my mom doesn't call because.
Yeah, because then I get to.
Then you'd have to
her,
uncomfortably talk to her. But
I mean, I don't know how uncomfortable I'd be. I'm pretty fluid in social situations.
Oh, yeah. As you can tell by this. I mean,
yeah.
But have you ever talked to his mother?
No,
Yeah,
I have not.
That's a different animal. That's a different animal.
She's fine. She's fine. I mean, I hadn't talked to her for like 20 years, and then she called Ben, and I was there, and we just talked like we hadn't been apart for a long time. So she's pretty good.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, just don't bring up politics, and you're fine.
Oh yes.
Or where you're going, because then she'll say, they're killing babies over there and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, Mom.
Right. I did have interesting questions.
That's fine.
Have you figured out whatever that is? Discourse?
Discord?
That's the one.
Spoken like a true person from your generation. Excellent.
Yes. Oh, that's right. I meant to tell you my joke.
Okay, what's your joke?
Okay.
All right.
Okay. It's like three different people saying things. First of all, there's the millennials. Okay. They say, "Who's Neil Young?"
Right.
And then there's Generation X. And they say, "I thought Neil Young was dead." And then the boomers say, "What's Spotify?"
Oh, that's funny.
Yep, and very true.
It was cute.
Yeah. You know what? I talked to you about that whole thing with Neil Young and the thought of removing myself from Spotify. But then I saw Joe Rogan did like a response. Well, here's the thing. Here's what we had. I talked to different people, and his response was totally cool, level-headed. So I'm like, well, if someone doesn't do their own research, it's bad on them. I can't police that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And there are many examples of people's artistic expressions and things that are not quite accurate to historical things. And we're gonna cover that when I do hype in one particular instance involving Arizona. But it's it's kind of like, back in the 90s we didn't have the internet, and that's probably a good thing and a bad thing, right? Good thing, it didn't get blown up. Bad thing, you couldn't do the research you can do now. You had to go to a library, and usually at the library they had a computer. But whatever. But I mean, either that or use a Dewey Decimal System.
Well, yeah, I know. I prefer a Library of Congress, but okay.
Oh, Jesus. Man, you're old school, yo.
Yeah, well, I am. That's because where I worked at Purdue, they use Library of Congress.
Oh,
and so
okay.
I found it But I like the Dewey Decimal System a lot too because I'm a math person.
Right. And then also, I think that you used to use the system they had before the Dewey Decimal System, which was the Huey Decimal System, right?
Yeah, right.
And then the Louis Decimal System.
Right.
Anyway.
Right.
All right. Well, enough of the dad humor. Okay, so we'll give you a call in our break, and then we'll go from there.
And if I don't think of anything,
just let me know.
Use my joke.
Just
use my joke.
Use your joke about the millennials. I don't know if that's going to ring the same.
You're right.
It's not going to ring the same coming from. I mean, we've got in this conversation, we got a millennial, we've got a Gen Xer, and we've got who is. I think that's a joke that needs to be told by a boomer to have impact. So. You know, if either one of us were to tell that joke, it would come off as we're making fun of boomers. Whereas if it comes from you, then
and that's why I thought it was funny when it was what's Spotify. That's when I laughed.
Right, and coming from you, a boomer, that's hilarious. Coming from me or Cheyenne, it would be like
especially
we're making fun
from
of you.
Me.
Yeah, it's like
I'm like 25.
It's like whatever, boomer. Maybe we'll just hold the joke. Or I can just clip it off this. Right now we're recording anyway, so if it's a good quality, I could just clip it and just kind of like, here's a joke from my aunt.
There you go.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So,
right.
Well, okay, have fun with your hype.
For this next clip, as you know, I have two podcats. I've got the old man who's 18, Bash, crotchety old man, but, you know, he's still hanging in there. And then his younger brother, who is a little demon. He opens cabinets and he gets into trouble just like a cat, and he's forever going to be a kitten. He's got a tiny little kitten head. Mango's usually one that pipes up during the recording of my sessions, but this time, in between Cheyenne and I recording the hype and the character episodes, Bash decided he wanted some lap time. So he jumped on my lap and could not be removed. He was stuck to my legs, so I just decided to let it go. And then I told a story about another unwanted interruption from Bash when he was a very young kitty.
We have an intruder.
Bash. Hey. Come on.
We're taking a little
cat break.
Goodness. He's really sticking.
Yeah. Hey, come on. I'll give you some pets.
Cat dad of the year.
Yeah. Cat dad of the year. You know, if he wasn't so old, I'm going to let this slide for just a second here. I'll just give him some pets.
You know, Dharma did the exact same thing this morning. Me and Arden were laying in bed after waking up, and I think he like reached over to give me a quick smooch, and she jumps up on the bed and like comes and stands directly in between us by our heads.
Yeah.
And just loomed over us like, where is my affection?
Where's my kiss?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's funny. Yeah, I remember actually when Bash was, he must have been, I don't know, like 5 or 6 or something. But I had a girl over, and things started to get a little, let's say,
steamy.
And then, you know, we're in various states of undress, and then all of a sudden Bash comes in, and he's like, "Hey guys, what's going on? Hey," and he just wouldn't stop.
What you doing?
Yeah, exactly. And then it's like, if I close the door, he's going to be scratching on the door and ruining the mood anyway. So it's just like, well, I guess I'll just take this as a sign, as we just don't do this.
Just not a good time.
Not a good time, and not a good person, maybe. I don't know. I kind of took it as a sign, which means there was obviously that seed of doubt planted somewhere. But anyway, okay, Bash, now.
Off you go.
These next 2 clips are from the character episode, and it is an episode that was almost lost due to SD card corruption. Fortunately, I was able to work some data recovery magic on it, and I was able to rescue the main file. Usually when I record the show, I get 2 separate tracks one of my guests and one of myself, and then I mixed those together. But in this case, I had to use the overall track that had everything mixed. It didn't sound as professional as it normally does, but it turned out really well. Had a lot of funny stuff in it. Cheyenne, it was her show. I told her that she was running the show. On that day, we recorded 2 episodes, and Cheyenne vows never to do that again. So we'll see if she changes her mind, but I highly doubt it. But anyway, she had a great plan for the show. It's just that we had too much information and too much conversation to be had. I think the main recording actually lasted about 2.5 hours for the discussion that we had, which is great, but it's a kind of a nightmare when you're trying to edit it and then also, pare it down. I didn't want to remove too much, but I did have to remove enough to make it the hefty yet reasonable 1 hour and 22 minutes. The first segment that you're going to hear was cut from a speed round where Cheyenne asked me about my favorite hero. I take her down the James Bond rabbit hole. So we talk a little bit about that character and how problematic it was initially and how I kind of enjoy the current iteration of Bond. For the second one, I cut this reluctantly because it was a part of the way Cheyenne had organized the show. She was going to do this speed round where we each answer who our favorite whatever hero, villain, character was for various media. That segment itself took a long time, even though we cut one of the segments, which you're going to hear in the first clip. But the second clip, she would recite an iconic movie quote, and I would tell her what character said it. It was a great sort of conversation starter for the word character, but unfortunately I just needed to cut something, and that's what had to go. So enjoy.
So your favorite action hero was James Bond, and mine is John McClane.
Oh, a Christmas movie. Yes
Christmas
or no?
Movie. Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Why do you say it's a Christmas movie?
For one thing, it takes place on Christmas.
Right.
So, but besides that fact, I believe there is a spirit of getting home to his family that is involved in all of this.
Yeah.
And it also plays...
Or making amends, too, with his wife, right?
They also play a really good Run DMC song in the beginning of that movie.
It's called Christmas Time.
Christmas in Hollis.
Yeah, in Hollis, Queens. Mom's cooking supper with collard greens.
It was really good. I love Die Hard. I love... there's a lot of quotable lines in that, obviously.
Yeah.
That is Welcome to the Party, Pal, right?
Right.
It's in there?
Yeah.
Such a good movie.
And
But
that reminds me of a good villain, too.
Oh?
Well, I mean, Hans Gruber...
True.
is a pretty calculating, amazing villain from that movie, but let's get back to that later.
For sure. James Bond, I've never actually seen any of the James Bond movies.
Yeah, here's the thing with his whole deal. I wouldn't say he's a hero. He's more like whoever plays him differently, right? A little differently. He's not written. There's like some really shady shit that goes on in the early novels. As far as like, I forget which movie it was, but the whole thing was he goes to Japan and he becomes Japanese.
Oh no.
Yeah, it's really problematic. So, I mean, as the series ages, the stories change to be more, reflective of the time. Like, if you look at a movie, there's a lot of, let's say, for example, the Timothy Dalton, who I think is a wonderful actor. Those days, there's a lot of helpless women who need saving and Sleep with James Bond and all that.
Right.
And now, with the more recent Bond, the Daniel Craig era Bonds, I think are great. As far
Is he
as
your favorite Bond?
Earlier in the episodes, I would have told you that Timothy Dalton is strictly based on his acting. But I've since rewatched those movies, and I think as far as James Bond and his arc, from movie to movie has really grown, and I think that is a testament to the way Daniel Craig played that character and really brought him to life. And also, the stories are a little, they have their moments of cringeworthy, like this is a helpless female in a tough situation that James Bond tries to rescue or whatever. There are problematic elements, but there are also strong female leads, like M. I mean, she, Judi Dench, my God, she's, the badass who knows what's going on and will tell James Bond when he's being, shitty.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I would say not so much the earlier Bonds. Yes, the most recent Bonds, and Daniel Craig is probably now officially my favorite Bond. Just
officially official.
Yeah, because it's reflective of the times, that in more of a inclusive way,
a positive way.
Yeah, than it was historically.
That's fair.
But anyway, that's my little caveat to why I think James Bond is my favorite one.
Yeah, I think that's cool. And I like that there are so many different versions of Bond and that it's a character that's grown over time.
Oh, yeah.
Which is kind of meta. We're talking about characters improving over time. And this is a character that from the outside has improved over time.
Right.
But
it's improved as far as the way he's written now that Ian Fleming... So the first group of movies were kind of written by Ian Fleming, right? They were based on books written by Ian Fleming, but Ian Fleming's books, there was a lot of racial sort of stuff in there. There was a lot of shit that's like sexist, racist, kind of overtones that when the books were all ran out and they started making their original stories, they were trying to be reflective of the time they were put out, right? So the 80s, you had a lot of people doing coke or whatever, and also, just like things, but still there weren't really the things that we want from movies these days: strong female leads, diversity, characters that are not just two-dimensional. So I don't think I need to explain this again, but it's just like the Daniel Craig series took something and was inspired by it, but brought their own sort of flavor to it based on today's more realistic,
inclusive climate. Yeah, just the having more inclusion and better representation.
Well written characters with depth and just like characters we care about. Whereas, in the first movies, you couldn't give a shit about M. M was just the one who's the asshole who's giving all the orders and telling Bond when he fucked up. But that's not the way Judi Dench's character was written, right? Judi Dench was an integral part of that first movie and cared, but she also had to be the boss.
She was tough.
Yeah. So she was one of those, she was put in a position where she cared about Bond, but she had to be a leader, so she had to make an example of him in certain cases, and so on and so forth. So that's
so relatable.
Yeah.
I got you.
So
we're gonna move on to our favorite book characters. We got Alice. I got some characters. I bet you this is an actual speed round. Do or do not. There is no try.
Yes.
Who's that?
That's Phillip Seymour Hoffman.
Nuh-uh. That's not your serious answer.
No. It's a walk.
That's Yoda.
Yeah, I know it's Yoda.
We got
come on. Is this supposed to be me?
No, this is not supposed to be easy.
Okay.
Or this is not supposed to be hard, I should say. We got I am your father. And have you ever said that into an electric fan?
Oh God, yeah.
Of course you have to.
How many times? Like we
probably a lot.
Yeah, we need like 4 digits to nail that number.
We got I ate her liver with some fava beans and a nice Chianti.
Oh, that's that's fucking creepy. That is the Jodie Foster the Jodie Foster vehicle.
Yeah, we got.
What's his name?
It's Hannibal Lecter.
Hannibal Lecter from
from Silence of the Lambs.
Lambs. Yes, you need your mint jelly. Yeah, that was also an excellent character portrayal. One of those movies I see once and I will never see it again. Mm-hmm. Kind of like the movie Seven, same thing. Mm-hmm. Seen it
really?
Once.
I love that movie, and I've seen it many times.
What's in the box just freaks me out. Just like the connection with the innocence of that character and her baby. I'm just like, oh, God.
It's just a lot.
It's too much. Give me a romantic comedy. Please.
A romantic comedy?
Yeah. A funny, quirky romantic comedy.
Oh, gosh. Okay.
Someone needs to make a romantic comedy video game. I've been saying this, and it should be a side-scrolling beat-em-up. Now, hold on. It's got to have like story elements and character development and things, and I think it would be great if it was like an internal monologue. So all this stuff that's going on in the side-scrolling beat-em-up is the back and forth between your brain, right? Like your brain figuring things out, like, oh, should I do this or should I do that? Or what is this person going to think? Or, well, like all these things that happen in your head that are kind of, I don't want to say needless, but actually they make it like you develop worry. So like, what do? You fight the worry monster, which is whatever.
Right.
And then you date, and it's a dating simulator too.
Yeah, that's fun. I like that.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yep.
I got 2 rom-coms for you.
Yeah.
Win a Date with Tad Hamilton and Love Potion No. 9.
Okay.
These are both great movies.
I like the movie Mannequin, which is an 80s movie.
You showed me the preview for that.
It's ridiculous.
That's ridiculous.
Another one that I thought, I don't know if it's not so much a romantic comedy as it is an artist trying to find himself. Xanadu is also a fun sort of thing. Oh, The Tall Guy, another Jeff Goldblum movie, is also an interesting movie about this guy who is an American actor in London. Rowan Atkinson, who does Mr. Bean.
All right.
He is in it, and he plays a character that's like basically like that kind of person who does that as a Broadway show, or not a Broadway, but in London, right, as a regular show. And Jeff Goldblum's character is the tall guy, which is basically the guy who's the brunt of the jokes, kind of the straight man, right? So everything that happens to him, like, Rowan Atkinson gets all the laughs and the tall guy gets all the shit, until he has said that he's had enough, and he decides when he meets this woman who is a doctor, that falls in love with her, and at the same time he's falling in love with her, he gets a role playing the Elephant Man in the musical version of the Elephant Man.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very
so
good.
it's a really weird kind of fun romantic
zany
comedy, very zany. Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. And,
I can't watch rom-coms anymore. It goes into what we were talking about earlier about how people in rom-coms never communicate effectively because it creates more drama.
When you say rom-com, I think of television shows more than I think of a romantic comedy. But I can see, I don't know why, but my brain goes there. Anyway.
I definitely think of movies. I think of like anything that Jennifer Lopez ever started as a rom-com. You got How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days.
Yep.
Ghost. Well, that's just romance. That's not comedy.
I think it's pretty comedic.
So I guess actually, now that I think about it, a ghost coming back to life or just haunting his lover.
Yeah.
And then you got Unchained Melody in there, which I'm not going to start singing.
Yeah.
Those are some good, solid rom-coms right there.
Yeah. You want to go back to the thingy with the characters?
Oh, with the characters. Yeah. Okay.
I'm sorry
so we did Hannibal Lecter. Okay. The next one I had was Why So Serious? Let's put a smile on that face.
That's Joker.
Of course. You got You Shall Not Pass.
That is the guy from the Middle Earth movies.
Yeah. Gandalf Grey.
Yeah.
You got I'll Be Back.
That's Phillip Seymour Hoffman again. Wow, that's kind of weird that you used Phillip Seymour Hoffman twice. No, it's Terminator.
That's our Terminator. And then finally, one that Arden had me throw in here,
right?
Which I don't think you're gonna get. He goes, "I'll swallow your soul."
What is that from?
It's from Evil Dead.
Oh,
it is a Deadite.
Okay. Yeah,
which I know it's a horror movie. But when I asked,
the only thing I know is groovy.
When I asked Arden to intone the line for me, he did it just like that.
Yeah,
and
it's very accurate now that you say it.
I couldn't stop laughing.
Yeah,
but one of the ones I was going to put on here was Patrick Bateman. Because of his iconic business card thing.
Yeah.
So
and this is something that you saw the movie, but you didn't read the original book.
No,
right.
I didn't. And I took a lot of notes about Patrick Bateman and his business card thing because, as you know, it's a scene in the beginning of the movie. He's sitting down to lunch with his friends and they start pulling out their business cards.
Yeah.
Patrick Bateman's very proud of his. He pulls it out and it says that it is made with bone. That's the color. And the text is something called Cillian Rail.
Yeah.
And then his friend, Van Patten, pulls out his business card and Patrick Bateman starts sweating. He grips his fist underneath the table because he can see this business card is like better than his.
Right.
Van Patten's business card is eggshell with Romalian type.
Right.
And then finally, their friend Price pulls out the best business card of all, the one that really gets those beads of sweat rolling down Patrick Bateman's forehead. And he says, "This one has raised lettering with pale nimbus white." And you hear Patrick Bateman's voiceover go, "Look at that subtle off-white coloring, the tasteful thickness of it. Oh my God, it even has a watermark."
Yeah.
So that whole sequence, I always just thought was like the funniest, just most entertaining part of that really pulled me into the movie. Because it showcases his obsession as a character with appearances and with aesthetics and perfection.
Yeah.
So I really love that whole sequence. I also wrote down "Hey Paul" because I think that's a great Bateman line.
Okay. Hey Paul.
Hey Paul! Right before he murders him.
Yeah. Here's the thing with the book, the voiceover that he does, right? For his character, like in that scene, right? But he also does voiceovers on other things describing, right?
Right.
So in the book, it is almost chapters, like entirely chapters of describing those types of things, like the business cards, like the threads and the things down to whatever, just like he describes them in such excruciatingly painful detail, very similar to that card scene. And that is part of, you get partway through the book and you go, what's the point? Then you find out the point at the end, kind of where his perspective shifts, which I didn't see the entire movie. I just saw parts of it. So I don't know how it works out. There are things in the book that I heard were absent also as far as music. Did he describe something in the way of, it was Phil Collins or something?
Yeah, it's a album that he's playing for his friend.
Okay, so he's got several things in the book that are about musical groups. Same thing with the chapter, similar to Phil Collins. I think he's got 2 or 3 different chapters. But in one of the scenes, which I heard is not in the movie, that's in the book, is during the middle of this whole, like the murder thing happening, he goes to a U2 concert and he's like totally drugged out. And at the U2 concert, he has this vision that Bono is Satan and is basically telling him that he's doing a great job and things like that. So he has this twisted kind of vision that kind of adds this sort of flavor to his character that's just kind of like, what the hell? Like everyone goes dark and it's just he and Bono from U2 is talking to him and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh my God, this is, it kind of nails the point that he's just nuts. Right. Mm-hmm. And so I don't know. It's really a great book and a really a kind of a 2-dimensional character that doesn't change really. He almost changes, but then he doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that's kind of the scary part of it.
Gives in to his dark passenger or whatever, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So, anyway.
We have a little podcat.
Yeah,
here.
he's getting the zoomies.
Getting squirrely.
This next clip is from the episode I did with Paul on the word virtual. It was a warm-up with Norah, kind of a conversational warm-up to get people comfortable with talking before the show. This time, Paul and I discover that our basketball coaches said the same phrase. And I tell a little story about my big shot that I took back in grade school in basketball, how it ended up. Not only this episode, but also our metaverse episode that we record when you're out here.
Yeah. So, hope my brain's better.
Oh, your brain will be fine. Just plug it in. Plug it in somewhere.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Maybe it just needs a recharge.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You brought your brain charger, didn't you?
No, I've got a whole box full of chargers with me.
Perfect.
It should be in there.
Yeah.
Right.
I use one that's it's kind of like I just pick it up wherever. It's called coffee.
I had some for the first time in like 3 days.
Oh, geez.
I had some today.
So that explains why you're all loosey-goosey, hyper.
Yeah.
Do people say loosey-goosey anymore? I don't think they do they?
My basketball coach said it once, and we made fun of him for weeks.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what that's where I got it.
From basketball?
Yeah, from my basketball coach. Stan Krabby. One of the most appropriate gym teacher names, and also a great name for a coach, Stan Krabby. Mr. Krabby, one time when I was on the basketball court, this was back, like 5th grade or something. I was on the team, and they put me out there. We were playing against this team of, like the second best team in the league. Like, we weren't even ranked, right? And they had this coach that was very much like, who's that guy from Indiana? The guy who threw the chair.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Bobby Knight.
Yeah.
Bobby Knight.
I don't know why I didn't think of that.
Tom would know, but he left the room.
Yeah,
so.
Bobby Knight. So Bobby Knight, he had that. They had that kind of coach where he was like yelling and always like.
Yeah.
And this is like grade school basketball, dude.
He got results.
Right. He did get Riley was a formidable opponent, but anyway, I was there, and our hoop was at their bench, and I was over 3-point line area, and they were all yelling. I was wide open, right? And they were all yelling at me to shoot it. And I just look over my shoulder, and I look at them, and then I took the shot, and I sank it, and then I was like, whatever, to them, and then Stan took me out of the game, and I was like, I made the shot, why did you take me out of the game? And it's like, you were hot dogging, man.
You're kidding.
Yeah, that's what he said.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so
hot dogging.
Yeah, because I guess
that's the picture of you, hot dogging.
Yeah, exactly. I guess I was I was all loosey goosey. I was all hot dogging. Whatever. Virtually hot dogging. Yeah. All right. Well, anyway, let's get. We're gonna get to the show then. So, here is another pre-show warm-up segment that I had with Ryan, who is someone that I've known for quite a long time, probably over 15 years now. He and I used to work together at the coffee shop. I try not to say the name of the coffee shop, but it rhymes with ducks. We started talking about acting, and Aunt Norah tells her stories about acting. Ryan tells his stories about his acting experiences and how he met Jane Lynch on the set of Glee one time. And that kind of leads to a mistaken identity of Norah that is very reminiscent of her HDM1 cables. We talk about a particular celebrity that I met working at the coffee shop and making her a double short wet cappuccino. If you include that, I have a bacon number of 2. That makes me feel pretty good. I don't know why. 2 pieces of bacon is never enough. Not to digress. Digression is our middle name here at the Too Vague Podcast, but let's get on to the clip.
I'm trying to find mute.
Mute?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, Norah, I've got Ryan. also known
Ryan.
as Mango, but just call him Ryan.
Hello.
Okay. Hi, Ryan.
Hi.
So, what's going on with you?
Well, I just got back from shopping and didn't get shot or anything.
Oh, well, that's good that you didn't get shot.
Honestly, it's been,
Yeah.
2 people were just killed this morning where your dad used to go to McDonald's.
Oh, my gosh. Wow.
And it was in the morning. It's like, geez, this place is... Anyway. And then I was hot, and so I'm eating an ice cream bar.
Okay.
But since you called, I put it in a dish.
Okay. All right. Well, now that we got that out of the way.
You asked.
Well, yeah, that's not necessarily how you are doing, but I mean, it's what you are doing.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
But we've got, like I said, Ryan. Our show topic this week is going to be the word comic. Do you have any thoughts on the word comic or questions? I mean, he is an actor.
Really?
Well, yeah, that's his chosen direction at this point in his life, right? You can speak up.
I was hosting a late night comedy show downtown in the format of trying to do the same as late night on television.
Oh, that could be good.
It had good shows. It had bad shows, but
yeah, typical.
But when you're centered downtown in Tucson, the majority of the talent is basically open mic. So trying to force a format while keeping something fresh and relevant was a little tough.
But still, it's, are you still doing it?
I haven't. The venue had closed. It is opened back up with new owners, and they seem to be doing well. I just haven't reached out since pandemic and everything.
It sounds good. It sounds like
It was fun. It was fun. I had a fresh monologue every week. The acts that were on that I particularly liked and could sense that I could play with on stage, I would, have them sit around and I'd interview them. And then
like you say, play with on stage. That's a good, good rapport.
Yeah.
So it's all improvisation type stuff, or
the opening monologue, I would spend basically the whole week writing.
Okay.
And then if any of my jokes were too close to like Kimmel or Colbert or Conan, any of them, I would just scratch it and try to write another joke to fill it.
So you actually paid attention to the late night comedy sort of zeitgeist.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It was a nice tip of the hat if you were writing something and it was on the next day or your topic was on the next day or the following day, you knew you're in the right direction.
Right.
I've felt that a couple times with other podcasts where it's like, oh yeah, I talked about that last week. And it's like, you're like going, oh, okay, I'm relevant.
Yeah.
In my own sphere, at least, with all of my listeners, Aunt Norah. That's basically my audience.
That's not true anymore. Maybe it was one.
Maybe at one time. Yeah. It's starting to pick up a little bit. I've got a lot more people listening, so it's pretty cool. Yeah.
It is.
So do you have any specific questions about acting or about comedy or comic, the word comic or the word improv?
Well, first of all, Ryan, do you act like in plays and stuff?
I have found just with work schedules and whatnot, it's easier to do film.
Oh.
Especially with Tucson, like if you were to do a play, you have to commit. It's a whole second job with rehearsals and requesting the work off and being like, a local play. The money that you potentially get, if you get it, isn't the same as, actual job. So doing films, a sense of like, your shoot dates, and you can request 2 days off and get paid more money. And,
that's wonderful. We have a lot of movie shoots in Chicago.
Yeah, see, that's what I was trying. I was trying to suggest that he moved to Chicago, but then you said there was a shooting, so that ruins that suggestion. I'm not sending you.
It's getting bad.
Well, I know how to duck.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Well,
That's a start. Yeah, that's a start. You also told me a story about how you landed. Is this a long time ago that you landed the role where it was like the smoking part?
Oh,
because I thought that was pretty funny.
Oh boy, this was probably 7, 8 years ago.
Okay, so it was a while ago.
Yeah, it was a little while ago. Yeah, I was on set for maybe a half hour. Pay was like $250. And I was telling Ben that it was also a pack of cigarettes because I was smoking at the time. And the in the background, you can see me smoking. The director came up and was like, "Hey, I love that. You need to start chain smoking." And sure enough, I did all through those takes. And he's like, "Here's money for the cigarettes. Here's the day's shoot. You're awesome."
Oh, God.
Yeah, so
you get a job for your smoking.
Yeah. I guess I made it look cool.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, smoking.
Wow.
Hey, kids, don't smoke.
Impressed.
Don't smoke.
Yeah,
Right.
don't smoke. But yeah, so I was telling him about how you generally, there was a point in time in your life that you had aspirations to do that kind of thing. Was that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was a baby.
Okay, so it was like...
I was, 18, 19, 20.
Okay, all right.
21, 22. When I got a job, my second job in the city, my first one was working for a loan company. You know, got to start somewhere. But my second job, went to an agency. They used to have those. And I said, I want a job in theater. You know, there's lots of them in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
I'll do whatever. They said, would you take advertising? And I said, yes. So that was as close as I came.
That to me doesn't sound like it's close at all. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to say.
We used actors.
Okay. All right. That was like, we talked about that on Lunchables, didn't we? The fact that you worked for the...
Oh, yeah. Oscar Mayer was one of our clients.
Yeah.
I did stuff in college. I did stuff after college for a few years, but it was just community fun.
Sure.
And it's fun. That's all I can say.
Yeah. There are two types of people when it comes to acting. It's like people who do it for fun and people who do it because they want to improve and actually pursue it as a career.
And explore the human condition.
You know, yeah. You know, that's part of my problem was back when I was doing it, I didn't understand the human condition. So my acting was like, I'll imitate this person or, you know, that kind of thing. But now, boy, I understand and I can put that into acting, but I can't remember my lines, you know.
Fair. I mean, in that, when I approach a role, before I actually memorize the lines, I focus on what are they trying to convey. And I'll walk through my apartment or whatever and just try to get the message out before actually getting it verbatim.
Oh, that's good.
Because then, especially if you're doing a play, and I'm going to leave out Shakespeare for this, but if you're doing a Tennessee Williams play or what have you, sure, you can have high regard and respect for the playwright, but what is really important to him is what is the message. If you can convey the message, the audience will know what was meant, and the fellow actors know how to play off of that.
Yeah, that is true. You got to be able to work with other actors. The other actors in there. So many times in Community.
Yeah, I mean,
that doesn't work.
If I had an actor on the stage with me ask, "Where is the pop?" instead of "Where is the soda?"
Oh yeah.
I can go with that because I know what they're trying to say.
Right.
But if they say "Where," and they freeze. That's when the illusion's dead, and then it's like, oh, they forgot their line. Are you thirsty?
Yeah.
That's when you have to get them back on track, and that's where it gets risky and dangerous, but a little fun too.
So is that improvisation? That's what that is?
Absolutely. Improv for me has always been like a go-to.
Right.
I would love to do improv, but I don't think my mind wouldn't work that fast under pressure. I can be comedic when I'm very comfortable with people, but if it's under pressure, my mind just freezes.
But I think also improv is a beneficial acting skill it's not necessarily comedic, right? It's something where you're trying to create something based on a situation, and it can be comedic, it could be depressing, it could be one of a number of things. So that's I think the one that's more popular, right, is making it fun and making it about comedy, but I don't think it has to be.
Yeah. The only rule I follow is the yes and. So you don't make your partner look bad. You want to make them look as good as possible.
Yeah.
Well, I'll just laugh at it. That's what
So you don't have any questions? Any other questions?
No, I'm just so impressed.
Oh, thank you.
So, yeah.
And seriously, I laughed, but seriously, Ben, you didn't tell me you knew somebody who was an actor.
Actually, you know what? He had lunch with, who was it you had lunch with?
Jane Lynch.
Jane Lynch.
Oh, yeah, she's great.
Yeah, it wasn't anything crazy. I wasn't trying to get kicked off the shoot or anything, but I was on the set of Glee and hanging out during their lunch break, and we had a little chuckle about their chicken lettuce wraps. But she was a sweetheart.
Yeah, well, that's cool. I mean, just meeting people who do it for a living, right?
Yeah.
He's still pursuing it. It's not like it's his career right now. I think he still has a passion for it, it seems like.
Absolutely,
so,
yeah.
Good.
And that's
keep
something.
It up. Really, keep it up.
Yeah.
Thank you.
As long as you can afford it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
I understand that there's a barista position.
He's already doing that, by the way.
Okie dokie.
Yeah, 11 years.
11 years. Yeah.
Oh.
He used to, that's how we met, actually, is we used to work together. So back.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And we haven't even, I mean, we've been Facebook friends for quite some time, but this is the first time we've gotten together in like 10 years or something, or 9 years.
A while, yeah.
Yeah. So.
Good.
But anyway, so reconnecting. So we're going to get to recording the show proper, but thank you for being our warm up.
Okay. But let me mention something to Ben. Okay. Ann and I are going to an art opening tomorrow night.
Okay.
It's a gala art opening from MCA, Museum of Contemporary Art.
Okay.
And Patti LeBelle is one of the guests.
Okay.
Aren't you impressed?
Yeah.
That's all. She wasn't the one that, she's not Darla or whatever her name was. Oh, never mind. Who's the person that came in and you knew who she was? It wasn't Patti LeBelle. Okay, never mind.
Okay. I'm just sitting over here. I'm just confused. I don't quite understand.
No, went into Starbucks. You recognized her.
Oh, Queen Latifah. Yeah, that was Queen Latifah.
Patti LeBelle.
Yeah. It's not the same at all. Not even close.
I know.
But yeah, Queen Latifah, and I think one of the people we worked with at the time, it was Rachel.
Yeah.
And she says, "Hey, I think Queen Latifah is in the bathroom," and I'm like, "No way! There's no way!" And then she passed me the cup, and the cup said Dana on it.
Okay.
Which is that's who Queen Latifah is. Dana Owens made the drink for her and went to the handoff plane, and lo and behold, it was Queen Latifah, and she was a very nice person. So,
of course,
very cool.
Course. So yeah.
That's the only person I ever met that.
Queen Latifah's in the bathroom. You'd never think you'd hear that sentence.
Yeah, exactly. I think Queen Latifah's in the bathroom. Okay. I think she could be somewhere else. I don't know, but I think.
Did you give her the code?
I think she's in the bathroom. That was pre-codes. But anyway, okay, well. Thanks.
have a good session.
All right.
It was lovely meeting you.
Nice meeting you too. And keep up the good acting.
For these next 3 clips, they're from a couple of episodes that I thought turned out really well that Norah and I did after I had initially announced that it would be a summer of soliloquies because I was having some trouble getting guests to come in. But as it turned out, Norah became my co-host temporarily, and I think she's really enjoying herself being a co-host. Before starting the show on the word moon, there was a news story about a Google employee who had determined by his work interacting with a chatbot that the chatbot was sentient. And then in the next 2 segments, Oh, let me just say also, there is a hilarious YouTube clip where someone did a mashup of Detroit Become Human and Police Squad. Check that out. After that, in the next two clips, both from our Blood episode, we tried a couple of different lead-in introductions, but they just didn't seem to land very well. I hope you enjoy the next three segments. Okay, so we are going to... Did you see in the news that thing with the guy who works at Google who has made the determination that his chatbot is sentient?
No.
Okay. There's an NPR article about it. I'll send it to you to read later, but it is pretty weird.
Huh. Yeah.
Google engineer who sees company's AI as sentient thinks a chatbot has a soul.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was big news. And everyone was like thinking, no, this is fake, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Had a conversation with the thing and said to him that he wanted to actually work for the company someday.
Wow.
Strive to achieve to be an employee of Google. I was like, okay.
Well, okay. Let me tell you, I'm reading a book right now.
Okay.
Called Clara and the Sun.
Okay.
It's a future fantasy, but future like in 50 years or something.
Okay.
Something like that. And it's about artificial friends. We won't call them robots. No. But they look very similar to people, and different ones have different abilities.
Right.
But they put so much information in them, they almost seem like they're humans,
okay.
And it's I'm still not done with it, but it sounds like what you're talking about.
Yeah. Well, that's
and they're trying to make this one into this girl is going to die. This daughter is going to die, and she's the artificial friend of the AF of this girl. And what the mother and somebody else are trying to do is to turn the AF artificial friend into
the daughter.
The daughter, after she dies.
Yikes.
Yeah. But I'm at the point where Clara, who's the AF, is going, what?
You're going to.
I didn't sign up.
Yeah, right, exactly. Huh. That's I mentioned before on the show the game Detroit Become Human, and that's one of those. If it wasn't for if it wasn't for the QuickTime event stuff, I think you might enjoy it. But it's like the story of the different perspectives of the different synthetic beings that kind of are sentient, but they're not. You know what I mean? It's like it's toying with the fact that they are actually sentient beings, and they start to realize all at once. And the one of them is a police, or at least he's like the Decker character in Blade Runner, where he goes around and he locates these AIs that have gone off the reservation or whatever, and are to go to the lab and be reformatted or whatever.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, science fiction. I don't know. And they're just friends.
Yeah.
They're just friends, right? It's not like anything weird.
Right.
Or is that explored in this book or mentioned, like girlfriends, like robotic, not just friends, but robotic romantic partners and things?
It is mentioned by some cretins that are human.
Okay.
But not. It's not part of the.
Not part of the main story. It's just kind of a side note.
And like I said, I still have about a third of it to read.
Interesting. Yeah, no, it sounds... What is the name of the book again?
Clara with a K, Klara, and the Sun, S-U-N.
Okay, Clara and the Sun.
Yeah, the sun is her god because, she thinks of it as that because they're solar.
Oh, okay.
Powered.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So,
yeah, that makes sense,
yeah.
right? That you would think of that as your power source, if that's
right.
Interesting.
Right.
All right. Well, let's not talk about the
right.
person who everyone's writing off as crazy.
Well, no, you know what I just thought about him is what if one of his buddies that works with him says, hey, this would be really funny. Let's do this. And they programmed the whatever it was to do that, to say things that would make the guy think.
Yeah.
It was real. Couldn't that happen?
I don't know. It could.
Yeah, I don't. I'll have to see. I'll have to read the article.
Well, anyway, he ended up getting suspended anyway. So
yeah.
But I mean, and who's to say that Google isn't covering up a little bit of this? Because that would be kind of widespread panic, right?
Yeah.
They got someone who's a scapegoat now who can, they can point at him and go, that guy's nuts.
Right.
And then all their other artificial intelligence work goes untouched or whatever.
Right. Unscathed.
Yeah. Because chatbots, like, that, and that's the other thing too, that if one of these, the thing that I told you about, remember what is the name of the high school girl, one that they put her out for Microsoft was working on it, and she had turned racist within like 20 minutes because people kept on bombarding her with all of this stuff that it was a conversational sort of robot that was going to work with Twitter and have conversations with people, and then you would send her things and it would send back things. Who's to say that that's not, I mean, you know what I mean? The human mind could have predetermined that.
Yeah.
Just based on how he phrased his questions, and maybe it isn't just the AI or people messing around with him, although that would be funny.
Right.
It reminds me that there was an episode of, I want to say it's Broadcast News. I'm not sure the episode, but there was, and I'm not sure the program, but there was a whole bit where this person was she got a word of the day calendar, and she was like the Office, like her character in the whole thing, she was like the dumb person who was had no personality. And all of a sudden she started sounding smart because she had this word of the day calendar that she would use the word. And all the people in the office were starting to get like a little, like, I guess, jealous, or they decided they're going to play a joke on her. So they made an entirely made up word of the day calendar. Then replaced her other word of the day calendar. So she was just saying nonsense words.
Right.
Yeah. That's what that whole scenario reminds me of. So,
yeah.
Anyway. All right. Well, are you ready to get the party started?
Sure. What the heck?
All right. Let's start this party. Season, just gearing up. So we're starting to get some rain here. So that's good. But anyway, we're not going to be talking about rain for the entire show. What I did want to touch on really quickly from our previous show, you mentioned something about Velcro. And and I just did a quick lookup of Velcro because I wasn't quite sure if it was a brand or if it was an actual, that was the name of the thing. But as it turns out, Velcro has a proper name that is that's not
like brand name.
Yeah, that's not a trademark.
A generic?
It's a generic. Yeah, exactly. Perfect. Okay. Yeah. It's now referred to the genericized trademark Velcro. People call it Velcro. But it's actually the type of fastener it is. Do you know what it's called?
Something to do with loop?
Yeah, it's hook and loop. It's a hook and loop fastener.
Yeah, I remember hearing that sometime, except I couldn't remember what went with the hooks.
Yeah. It's not hook and loop.
Or loops, I mean. Okay.
Yeah, hook and loop fastener. Apparently there is a hook and eye closure, but that's for larger sort of hooks.
That's individual.
Right, exactly. Whereas this is just a whole group of them. The development of this hook and loop fastener is kind of interesting. You should check it out. I don't want to devote too much time to it, but
yeah.
So it's like rollerblades, or which is inline skates, or Band-Aids, which is adhesive strips. Is that what they were called?
Plasters. If you read a lot of English books and watch English things, they're called plasters.
Yeah, plasters. I think I'm going to ask for a plaster next time I have a cut and see what happens.
Yeah, right. Right.
Maybe someone come out with a trowel.
Yes. Right.
Here's your plaster. What? No.
Yeah.
But anyway, okay. So a small hint on what our, well, I don't know if it's a hint. You just kind of fortunately studied for the correct thing, I think.
Yeah. Well, not studied. Let's not say studied.
Okay. Research?
That puts too much pressure on me. Still too much pressure, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, don't put too much pressure on yourself. I mean, it's like research is, I think calling it research, some people, there's sort of a gravity to calling something research.
Yeah.
But it really is something that should go on a day-to-day basis. When you're told something about a fact, you should take your own. I mean, now that we have all this information readily available to us, information and disinformation, but I mean, it's a lot easier to do research, and we don't have to go to the library necessarily.
Yeah.
So, but anyway,
right.
But I mean, I think calling it research does have sort of a gravity to it that we think of.
It does for me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think we associate it with school, a lot of times. So it's like, but anyway. Yeah, go ahead.
No, nothing. I was just gonna say, those little programs that I do like once a year or something for a group.
Yeah.
See, I research those.
Right.
And I research those. And I think about all the questions that people might ask. Right. And so I'm going beyond what I am saying in my program, but I'm prepared for all possible questions.
Yeah.
And to me that's research for somebody who doesn't have a job.
Right. For me, it's more for personal. It's less for, you know what I mean?
Right.
For me, this is, I want to do enough research to where I have interesting facts. But at the same time, I mean, at the end of the day, this whole thing is just for fun. This is,
right.
So
I know.
But so you will not be graded.
Well, I might quiz you.
Oh, geez.
So.
But anyway, blood. Let's get into it.
Blood. Okay.
We did a show with John on the word cooperation, and that was the first time I had ever really field tested using Discord to record the episode. It's also my first time talking with John for an extended period of time. I think we met in passing at my dad's memorial service, but we didn't really have a lot of time to talk. This clip, it was cut because there was some redundancy in our discussion, and we talked a little bit about, Valorant and a little bit about Warframe, and it just kind of felt like it didn't fit. But it's good material on its own, so take a listen. That's fascinating. There are some overlap things for a game that I've been playing for a while called Warframe, but I just do it just for fun. And it is, it's like a third-person shooter-ish. You can kind of go into first-person, but it's a third-person shooter. You've got 3 different weapons, but they have so many different kinds of weapons. And part of the joy of that game is being able to customize each weapon and you frame, which has 4 different powers, with these cards that drop that basically give you, like you can do things with different elemental kind of, damages. And it gets, the complexity in Warframe is far different than the complexity.
Definitely probably more complex than Valorant, but just a different type of complex. And you're saying like the drops and stuff in the cards, like that's the RNG that I was talking about that doesn't really happen in Valorant. Like I know every possibility that could happen in the game basically.
Right.
Where in something like that, I could get, in a game like Warframe, I could get this the sweet card that's gonna deck me out or something, and now I'm set, and you can't really plan on that happening.
Yeah.
Can you? Is it mostly
No,
luck,
well, I mean, that's the thing. It gets to the point where you level up the cards, and so you have the cards that you want. I mean, it's not okay, so the wiki is your friend if you're playing Warframe. Let me just say that. It'll tell you which enemies will drop cards. It is randomly generated, but if you play through a round or two, most cards that you want are going to drop. And then there are other cards that you buy when certain events occur, or this guy comes around, this traveling dude who goes out into the void and comes back with weapons. There's, like higher level things. I mean, it's very complex. Warframe, I don't know when you last played Warframe, but my gosh, it's almost too complex now. Like the barrier to entry is so high on that game because there's just
like
so much.
Destiny type game?
Even more. I mean, it's just more? Yeah, and it's not about. I mean, the great part about Warframe for me is the ability to customize the way your powers work and the way your guns work. And I think it's a holdover from this game I used to play, which is a massively multiplayer online game back when you were 2 years old, called City of Heroes, which was a superhero-based game. And, you could have people who had a primary power set and a secondary power set, exactly the same role that they're playing, but depending on how they slotted it with these little enhancements, they could behave differently. And that's what I like about this. It's like I can have a gun and I can have it, customize it to be a certain element or be better at long range, short range. There's some cards that do like multiple things where it'll increase one thing significantly but reduce another thing. So there's sort of a trying to figure out what the best customization would be for each enemy set. There's 3 different factions and they each have their own kind of weaknesses. It is really, really, I mean, like I said, very complex to figure it all out, but just something I would, pick up and play. It's very easy to just play it by yourself, or play with people. I prefer to play most of those games by myself, but that's just me. And since I play on a console, I can type, but usually I'm absorbing bullets while I'm typing something. I just don't like to talk to people that I don't know like that. So
yeah, I've found myself falling into some games. I think the most recent games, like somewhat similar to that I played a lot of, was The Outer Worlds.
Okay.
Similar to Fallout, same developer.
Yeah.
But I liked the Fallout games just because sometimes it is nice just to like, basically it's like it's like when you're reading a book and you fall into the book and you get lost in it, and I found myself getting lost in those games, and that's like the real games where lose track of time and end up playing for 4 hours or 5 hours.
Right.
Like, oh wow, I've been playing for a while, maybe I should take a break or something, because you've got stuff to work on, you're trying to get new upgrades, or you're trying to discover this new city, or all that stuff. So
see, and that's the thing that I find very interesting with the times that we grew up, right? You and myself. I think I cannot play a game. I think my maximum is probably 2 hours tops. I mean, I don't usually go 2 hours, even on a single game. It's usually like 2 hours and then I'm done. And I think that probably has to do with the fact that in the arcades, I mean, that was what you were playing. You had small groups of time, right? You weren't sitting there for 4 hours in an arcade. Well, I guess some people were. But it was like there was variety, and it wasn't like the same game over and over again. So I have a tendency to get bored. But I mean, playing a game for, like I said, 2 hours, 3 hours, that's the maximum. I just can't do it any longer than that. Something like Valorant would mean I'm only playing one round probably, right? Because it's like each game lasts an hour, like as far as the championship ones, right? The highest level. The
well,
ones that
even
you play?
any game, it doesn't even matter, what level. You have so basically, you win when you get to 13 rounds,
Okay.
and each round is maximum 3 minutes.
Okay.
Maximum.
Gotcha.
But so if you went 13-0 against the team, you could be done with the game in 30 minutes, 25 minutes.
Okay.
But most games tend to go to 13-11 or 13-9. And that's when it takes 50 minutes to an hour.
Gotcha.
But the thing that's refreshing is there's I think there's 5 maps now. I could finish a game and I'd be like, wow, I just played for an hour. But when I load in, I'm on a different map. It's like I'm playing a whole new game.
Right.
So sometimes it's refreshing and doesn't make it feel as like it's dragging on as long, and it keeps it new. So and there's different strategies on every map and different characters that are better for certain maps.
Gotcha. Do they have season passes kind of stuff that you like? You do have to buy seasons.
I mean, it's just for skins because every gun in the game you can have skins for. Okay. The battle pass just gives you skins. That's it. There's no pay to win or anything like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, and that's what I think with Warframe that I kind of liked about. I mean, there was a time when I would buy the prime frame to get the highest, the prime stuff, right off the bat, and not have to grind. But the fact that you can grind for all the prime frames is really cool, and you don't have to pay for those things, or you can trade those parts. Like if I get all of the Frost Prime parts by grinding, I can go into the trade channel and just say, hey, I've got a Frost Prime, all the parts and the blueprint, 300 platinum or 200 platinum or whatever you want. Give me an offer. And then you can get that currency that you can buy by yourself, pay them. But then also you can make it without even having to buy any of the currency. It takes a little while to do that, and it's not like there are people who are mining that stuff over and over again, and if they are, it's like it's not quite enough to be worth it, right? Yeah. But yeah, it's got an interesting in-game economy. They're always trying new stuff, which is both good and bad, because it's just like different modes, and sometimes it's focusing on end-game stuff, and that to me is always like one of those slippery slopes where it's like, okay, yeah, I'm in the end game content segment. However, that's not going to bring new people in. Keeping this game growing is more important. And so some of the things that they're focusing on are mostly like, what about our people who've been playing this for 6 years? What do they want? But it's simple. Yeah. I just want a fun experience. I just want something new and exciting. And there's a lot of variety of the different game types you can play also in Warframe too. I mean, you've played it before, some of the basic types. And that's the other thing too, like a cross-play sort of thing. You don't have to worry about cross-play. It's only on PC.
It wouldn't be possible to really compete on a controller and against keyboard and mouse on a game like that.
Agreed. Especially on something
there's too many buttons, and every utility has its own button, and a controller just doesn't really cut it for that.
Well, and then also the precision problem is like that's the big thing. The mouse and keyboard is more precise, which is kind of where a lot of these games that want to do cross-platform between PC and console is okay for something that is almost entirely cooperative multiplayer versus an environment, like where you're together thrown with a group of people, but not when it comes to player versus player stuff.
Yeah.
I've got a question. Like when we started talking about this, as far as the games that you play Counter-Strike and you play Valorant, and you kind of hinted at playing through things like Fallout. How important are games as far as story-based games? Because for me, I'll take kludgy game mechanics if you give me a great story. Is there kind of a balance for you when you play games? There's the cooperative kind of playing with other people, but then there's also enjoying the story by yourself.
I don't think I'm similar to you, where I don't think the game mechanics really matter as long as there's a good story.
Yeah.
And I mean, Outer Worlds is a pretty clunky, has a clunky feel to it a little bit, but
yeah,
um,
I've heard. I haven't
it's like
played it.
I can hop in a spaceship and go to a planet that I've never been to, and there's so much to explore, like almost too much to where I couldn't even do it all.
Right.
But it was just cool because I could come back from school or something and be like, I'm gonna go explore, this planet over here on like the outer rim area over here, and there's all these new monsters and new weapons and new armor I can get and all that stuff. That was super neat to me. So.
Yeah. I'm still give me a very concise story and send me on a thing. Are you excited about Starfield at all?
I've heard about it. Is that like Star Citizen? Like that's the
No, Starfield is the newest. It's basically Skyrim in space. Essentially, they're trying.
Really?
Yeah.
Ooh, that could be cool.
Yeah, I don't know. It's now that Bethesda is almost wholly owned by Microsoft, right? It was supposed to come out for both systems, but now it's going to come out for the Xbox, and I'm guessing the PC only. But yeah, that's basically Skyrim in space is essentially what it is. And I'm a little skeptical. Who knows what's going to happen? Because, I mean, Cyberpunk didn't seem to turn out too well for CD Projekt Red.
No.
Did you play that at all?
I didn't, but I had a bunch of friends that did.
Yeah.
And, I was like excited for some of the upcoming games, but the problem is I'm kind of on my last leg when it comes to PC games because I don't bring my computer to college and I just play over the summer, and that's why I like a game like Valorant because it doesn't change that much to where I can go to school and come back over winter break and hop on and still be able to play and know the stuff that's going on, but I don't necessarily have enough time to play a storyline type game.
Yeah.
I could just I could hop on and play for an hour and be content.
So how important is the rig? Our final clip. Once again, some pre-show banter that Tracy and I had for her show on the word roll, R-O-L-E. She used to have notorious Halloween parties, her and her flatmates. I think it was a 3-story house that they lived in, and everyone was there from the neighborhood. It's a story about what happened to me when I attended probably the only one of these parties I ever attended in Chicago. What happened was sort of a case of mistaken identity. Please join Norah and I next week when we talk about the word snack. Thank you very much for joining me for this look back at some great Too Vague podcast episodes. My name is Ben, and I've been your host. Have a wonderful night. Bye. I don't know where you are sitting. You're probably at a desk, right?
I am at a desk. I'm at a desk in my office.
Yeah. You have an office? Wow. Fancy.
One of the perks of living in a house.
Yep.
When you don't have, is you get to use what would be bedrooms as offices.
Yeah. You guys don't live in the same house that you lived in when you were having your Halloween parties, or do you?
I lived downtown and was doing Halloween parties and the apartment that I lived in downtown.
Okay.
And we never did we did Halloween parties out in California.
Okay.
In the house where we lived in California, at Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
But we haven't done a Halloween party at this house.
Okay, I gotcha. So that place that we went to for the Halloween parties was an apartment. It wasn't actually.
Yeah, that was an apartment downtown. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it was a house. It was a 2-flat.
Right.
There were 3 stories on the house. I rented one of the floors as an apartment, and then my landlord, with whom I threw these parties, lived on the bottom 2 floors. It was a house, but I rented one of the floors.
One of the units. Okay. I think I only attended one of your Halloween parties. Adam may have attended more than one, but I remember the one that I did attend. I dressed up as some weird Japanimation character. I had like nunchucks, and I had this like the crazy hair and like a half shirt and like suspenders and just being weird, right? Just dressing up weird.
Right.
And I was out in the backyard shooting the basketball.
Yes.
And then these 2 ladies walk up and they say, "Now that's a fine looking lesbian over there." And then I turn around and they go, "Oh, sorry." And I'm like, oh, man. So apparently I'm a fine.
It's you sort of have to understand that the context, given who was throwing the party, is that there was going to be gay people there. So,
and
it was kind of everybody was expecting everybody else to be gay.
Right. And I do have a big ass for a skinny guy, so I can understand the I can understand the confusion. Skinny guy with a big ass. But anyway, okay, so you know how we start the show.